Portugal beat Croatia 2-1 last night. Cristiano Ronaldo scored. Gonçalo Ramos scored the winner in stoppage time. And everybody online right now is calling it an instant classic. Honestly, it was. But if you actually sat through the first half of that game, not the highlights, the actual first half, you saw something that should be worrying every single Portugal fan heading into the next round. Because for 53 minutes, Portugal dominated a World Cup knockout match and had almost nothing to show for it. And the only reason we're not talking about a genuine Portuguese collapse this morning is a penalty, a header in the 4th minute of stoppage time, and a linesman's flag that could very easily have gone the other way. So let's actually talk about it. The setup. Round of 32. Toronto. Ronaldo, probably playing his last World Cup ever. Modric, definitely playing his. Two of the greatest players of the last 2 decades, former teammates at Real Madrid, on opposite sides of a knockout game that was always going to carry a little extra weight before a ball was even kicked. This wasn't just 2 legends sharing a pitch one last time either. These are 2 players who won Champions Leagues together, who spent years lining up alongside each other in white, and who are now on the opposite benches of a World Cup knockout tie in their late 30s and 40s. Croatia have ridden Modric's generation about as far as it can possibly go. A final, a 3rd-place finish, years of punching well above what a country of 4 million people should be able to do. And every one of those campaigns has eventually run into a version of this same story. A golden generation getting to the brink and coming up just short. And for the first 45 minutes, Portugal looked like the team that weight belonged to. They had the ball. They had the territory. Bruno Fernandes found Rafael Leão in the 4th minute, and Portugal should have been ahead inside 5. Livakovic made the save, the rebound got blocked, and honestly, that was the story of the whole half. Good positions, no end product. Ronaldo smashed a free kick from distance straight into the wall. Renato Veiga headed over the bar from a corner when he was completely unmarked, 8 yards out. Ronaldo failed to turn in a cross from Cancelo that had his name written all over it. And then, in maybe the most Ronaldo moment of the entire tournament, he actually did score. A gorgeous first-touch finish off a swerving ball, and VAR chalked it off for offside by what looked like inches. Here's the part nobody wants to sit with. That's 4 clear chances and a half where Portugal completely controlled the game, and they walked into the locker room level at 0-0, against a Croatia team that hadn't created one single meaningful chance of their own. If you're Roberto Martinez, that's not a half to feel good about. That's a half to feel nervous about, because knockout football only punishes you once for wasting chances like that. And 3 minutes into the second half, it did exactly that. The problem. 53 minutes in, Ivan Perisic picks up the ball out wide, cuts inside, and lashes a low strike across Diogo Costa into the far corner. Croatia, who'd barely touched the ball in Portugal's half-all match, are suddenly ahead in a World Cup knockout game. And this is the part that gets buried under all the instant classic headlines. Portugal didn't lose control of that game because Croatia found some brilliant tactical wrinkle, or because Modric turned back the clock and started running the show. Croatia scored because they sat in, stayed compact, and waited for the one moment Portugal's wastefulness would finally catch up with them. That was the entire plan, and it almost worked. Think about how simple that game plan actually was. Croatia didn't press high. They didn't try to dominate midfield the way Modric's Croatia teams have for the better part of 15 years. They sat deep, kept their shape, absorbed everything Portugal threw at them for almost an hour, and waited. That's not a flashy strategy. It's not the kind of thing that gets a tactics breakdown video with 1 million views. But it very nearly worked against a team with arguably more individual quality in its front 4 than any other side left in this tournament. Sit with that for a second. This is a Portugal squad with Ronaldo, Bruno Fernandes, Rafael Leão, Nuno Mendes, real top-tier talent from front to back, and a well-organized, physically committed Croatia side, without anywhere near the same individual quality, was 35 minutes away from sending Ronaldo home from what's probably his final World Cup ever. That's not a fluke, that's a pattern. Portugal have been a team all tournament that generates volume without generating conversion, and against a side with nothing left to lose and a defensive setup built for exactly this kind of game, that pattern nearly got them eliminated. The escape. So how did they survive it? Not through some genius tactical tweak from Martinez, not through a burst of collective brilliance, through a penalty. 68 minutes in, Nikola Vlasic, for reasons that still don't really make sense, wrestles Renato Veiga to the ground at a corner. The referee doesn't give it right away. VAR pulls him over to the screen. He points to the spot. And Ronaldo, 41 years old, walks up in front of a goalkeeper who studied his penalties for 20 years, stops his run-up completely, waits, and goes the other way anyway. It's a special moment, genuinely. his first ever World Cup knockout goal at what's almost certainly his last World Cup, and he delivers it under maximum pressure with ice in his veins. Nobody's taking that away from him. But strip the emotion out for a second, because that's what we're here for. Portugal didn't equalize because they cracked Croatia's low block. They equalized because a Croatian midfielder made an inexplicable, undisciplined foul in a dangerous area. That's a gift. A talented team took that gift and finished it, which is what good teams are supposed to do. But it wasn't a plan coming together. It was a mistake getting punished. Take that Vlasic moment away, and Portugal are staring at a scoreline that doesn't just fix itself. Because for the next few minutes after the equalizer, Croatia kept coming. Mateo Kovacic beat Costa but hit the post. He came back for the rebound moments later, driving a follow-up effort from 20 yards that Costa somehow got a hand to and pushed over the bar. That's twice in the space of about 10 seconds where Croatia should have been back in front. And twice it was the woodwork and a scrambling save bailing Portugal out, not a system. And here's the thing about those two chances specifically. They didn't come from broken play or a lucky bounce. They came from Kovacic driving straight through the middle of Portugal's midfield, completely unchallenged, in a knockout game in the 75th minute. If Portugal's shape had been even slightly tighter there, that sequence doesn't happen at all. The final scare. Martinez subbed Ronaldo off in the 81st minute. Fair decision, given his age, with extra time looming and the tank clearly empty after 90-plus high-intensity minutes at 41 years old. But it meant Portugal's most dangerous individual wasn't even on the pitch for the ending. An ending that, again, very nearly didn't go their way. Deep into stoppage time, past the 10th added minute in a half that had already gone on for what felt like forever, Josko Gvardiol heads home what looks like a Croatia winner. The stadium erupts. And then it doesn't stand. Offside, by the finest possible margin, on review. Go back and watch that replay and ask yourself honestly, how confident are you that call goes the same way 9 times out of 10? This wasn't some clear, obvious offside where a player's a full stride ahead of the last defender. This was a margin of inches decision in the single biggest moment of the tournament so far, and it happened to land in Portugal's favor. And then, almost like the football gods needed to make a point about just how thin this margin really was, Gonçalo Ramos, not Ronaldo, the other striker, the one who came off the bench, rises above the Croatian defense in the 4th minute of stoppage time and heads home the winner off a cross from Rafael Leao. Game over. Portugal through. Croatia's golden generation, Modric included, out of the World Cup, putting it together. So here's the real story of this match, stripped of all the instant classic framing everyone else is running with. Portugal dominated a half and scored 0 goals from it. They fell behind to a low-block team with one simple plan that nearly worked perfectly. They got bailed out by a penalty won from an opponent's individual mistake, not a tactical breakthrough. They survived 2 more Croatian chances that hit the frame of the goal and the gloves of their own keeper within seconds of each other. They had a legitimate-looking opposition goal wiped out by the finest of margins deep into stoppage time, and they scored the actual winner through a substitute in the 4th minute of added time off a scramble from a set piece. That is not a team playing knockout football with confidence. That's a team that got extremely lucky in exactly the moments it couldn't afford not to be. And the reason nobody's saying that out loud is simple. Ronaldo scored. Modric's story is over. The emotional weight of the occasion is doing all the talking. An instant classic is just a much easier headline to write than Portugal nearly blew this. But if you're an opponent drawing Portugal in the next round, this is the tape you're studying. Not the penalty, not the header. You're studying the first 53 minutes, where a talented Portugal side created 4 real chances and converted 0 of them against a team that hadn't touched the ball. You're studying a backline that let Perisic cut inside far too easily, and a midfield that let Kovacic walk through it twice in 10 seconds late in the game. You're studying a Portugal team that needed a gifted penalty, 2 pieces of woodwork, and an offside call that could have gone either way, just to survive the round of 32. Croatia and Modric are out, and that's the story everyone's telling today. But the real problem, the one buried underneath the fairy tale ending, is that Portugal are 1 bounce away from being the biggest early elimination story of this entire World Cup. There's also a bigger picture question hanging over this Portugal squad that last night's result doesn't answer. Roberto Martinez has built a team around individual brilliance up front, covering for structural issues everywhere else, and that works right up until it doesn't. It worked last night because Ronaldo delivered from the spot and Ramos delivered from a header. It might not work next time. Knockout football at a World Cup doesn't give you unlimited chances to get bailed out by your best players. Eventually, the game plan has to hold up on its own, and right now, for 53 minutes at a time, it isn't. They got through, but they didn't fix anything. The wastefulness in front of goal is still there. The gaps in midfield are still there. and whichever team faces them next has just been handed the exact blueprint for how to make them pay for it. Sit deep, stay patient, and wait for Portugal to leave the door open one more time.